others out there searching of loved ones lost. There's a lifetime of hurting, praying one day they'll find the missing.
The disappearance of 10-year-old Bobby Bizup is a rabbit hole that runs really deep. It involves a skull found in a basement and a pedophile-ran church camp. Was Bobby's death covered up by all the priests that ran this camp? Come with me as we go down into this rabbit hole. Hello, my name is Holly. Welcome to the Murder She Said, the place I discuss. You don't discuss. I discuss rarely told true crime right from my she shed. You just listen. You don't have a hard job. You just listen. And since it's so easy for you to listen, I'm sure you can double task and smash that subscribe button down there. It's that easy. You need to help a girl out. I mean, it's easy to get lost in this big YouTube world. The Rocky Mountains are a rugged yet beautiful place to visit. High in the Rocky Mountains near Estes Park, Colorado, lies a chapel known as Chapel on the Rock. In the 50s, this patch of land from the edge of the rocky boundary to the chapel was a boys' church camp known as Camp St. Malo. The Catholic church camp was open for 6 weeks every summer and welcomed boys from 9 to 16 years of age. For just $30 a week, a boy could have a grand adventure, and parents felt like it was a safe place to send their boys. It was a great place for 10-year-old Bobby Bizup to go and be able to enjoy the outdoors since he was a big fan of fishing and he loved the outdoors. Robert Dennis Bizup, or Bobby, was born to Joseph and Constance Bizup on July 4, 1948. His father Joe was an Air Force Master Sergeant and his mom Connie was a stay-at-home mom. They lived in Denver, Colorado. Bobby was the only child the couple had, so they were super protective of him. Bobby had been born almost completely deaf, and the hearing aid he wore was of little help. Bobby used sign language to communicate with his family. Bobby always had a smile on his face, especially if he's fishing or playing baseball, his two favorite activities. In 1957, the first time Bobby attended Camp St. Malo, he fell in love with the beauty of the camp. This area was known as God's country, and between the fishing and awe-inspiring beauty of this camp, Bobby couldn't get enough. He attended the church camp 3 times that summer. Although his mother was super protective, she saw how much Bobby loved to go, and she felt like this was a safe way he could be entertained for the summer and get some outdoor activities. So, of course, when school was out and the summer of 1958 started, Bobby was begging to attend the camp again. He attended the camp in the early part of the summer, and then again in August, he begged to go again before school started for the fall. On August 15, 1958, Bobby noticed that it was a misty, cloudy afternoon. Perfect weather to sneak up on some trout in Cabin Creek. Cabin Creek was a small creek that ran through the camp's property. After a couple of hours of fishing, Counselor Terry Cohen let Bobby know it was time to start gathering up his things and start heading back to camp for dinner. He hit his watch, letting Bobby know it's that time. So Bobby began to gather his things up, and the counselor went ahead and just headed back to camp. But an hour later, when dinner was served, Bobby hadn't showed up, and Bobby was never going to be found alive again. In 1958, the camp director was Father Richard Heister, and he began the search for Bobby. The police were called after Bobby could not be located. Bobby's parents showed up the next day to help look for their missing boy. Most people at this point just believed Bobby was just lost and would be found eventually. The search for Bobby extended across 4 days, with an estimated 300 people searching over 16 square miles. The search included airmen from Denver's Air Force Base, where Bobby's father actually was stationed. Bloodhounds searched the woods, and skin divers searched the heavier ponds. The search extended up Mount Meeker to approximately 11,000 feet and 4 miles in each direction. There was no sign of him, only his bait box about a mile from the creek where he was last seen by his counselor. A sighting of a boy matching his description in nearby Estes Park diverted police there, but turned out to just be another boy. The search was called off 10 days later, and his disappearance and death ruled an accident. It was accepted that he had wandered off, gotten lost, and succumbed to the elements. It would not be found out until years later that several counselors that were priests at that camp were predators. And one of those predators actually found some of Bobby's bones while hiking a year later after Bobby had went missing. 5 days after the summer of 1959 camping season opened, Father Neil Hewitt, who had been a camp counselor at St. Malo for 4 seasons, decided to take a group of boys up the side of Mount Meeker with 2 other counselors. It was July 3rd, 1959, one day before Bobby would have turned 11 years old when the group climbed Mount Meeker. They were around 11,000 feet in elevation when a place where the trees gave away to the rocky ledge of the mountain's upper reaches with Camp St. Malo clearly visible in the valley below, when Hewitt caught sight of a torn piece of clothing. Upon nearer inspection, a bone was found, but the 3 counselors did not report their findings until 3 days later to police. Even the camp director, Heisters, for some reason, didn't report it till 3 days later to police. These are things that make you go, in this case, and there's several of those. Hewitt was not only the priest that found Bobby's remains, but also one of the last people to see Bobby alive. In this video clip, Hewitt tells the story of the last time he saw Bobby alive to a news reporter. The story involves how he wouldn't give Bobby candy. Makes me wonder what Bobby refused to do for Hewitt in order to get this candy.
All this, I was looking through, old newspaper articles and stuff like that, and I came across stories about a boy named Bobby Bizup that disappeared up at St. Malo.
Yeah.
And it sounded like you were helped with the search on that, and
Well, I was a counselor up there at that time.
Yeah. What do you remember about that?
What do I remember?
Yeah.
What I remember was I was running, I guess you'd call it the snack bar at the time at St. Malo, and he came and he wanted to buy candy, and I thought, he was getting too much candy type of thing, and I said, no, I don't think we ought to. And so he took off and just walked up the hill, I guess. And
is he the one that disappeared?
yeah, he disappeared, and I did not do anything to him except to not give him more candy is what it amounted to.
Several kids and a couple of counselors would later say the last time they saw Bobby, he seemed extremely upset about something that had happened to him, but he had no way of making clear in his communication efforts what he had actually been upset about. Soon after, he was last seen walking the trail with his fishing pole, heading to Cabin Creek. Neil Hewitt was not known by authorities to be a predator until 1992 when one of Hewitt's victims came forward. Hewitt, who was a serial predator, used alcohol and corn to groom his victims. He targeted boys in their early teens and would take them camping and on other road trips to isolate them from adult supervision. He provided them with alcohol to impair their judgment and lower their defenses. One of Hewitt's victims was driven to unaliving himself as an adult. In his last note, this victim described the abuse he endured from Hewitt as a little boy, and how during the abuse he was scared to death and afraid to move when Hewitt had crawled in bed with him. The letter described the painful impact the SA had on his life, including his tremendous guilt of going to hell, self-hatred, and the loss of his religion and faith in God. Hewitt is known to have abused a minimum of 8 children while he was a priest. After authorities were notified about the remains, 20 additional pieces of clothing, such as scraps of a shirt, pants, and shoes, were found, as well as a red ball cap and a Zenith hearing aid battery. There was no doubt that Bobby had been found. At that time, Bobby's skull was not found with the other bones, which will come into the story later. Bobby's parents believe he was just a little boy who just accidentally got lost up until the day they died. The only problem about that theory is that the place that Bobby's body was found, you could actually see the location of the camp from that height. And why did Bobby go uphill instead of downhill, where he knew the camp was actually located at? Bobby had been in this creek 5 different weeks over 2 summers, and he knew that he just had to walk downhill to the camp. And he had perfect view from the camp where his body was found. Why wouldn't he have been able to find the camp? Was Bobby so scared of something that happened at that camp that he preferred to face the harsh terrains of the wilderness rather than face the monster or monsters that waited back at that camp for him? Or was he just a lost little boy? Even more disturbing was he followed by an individual or individuals and murdered on Meeker Mountain. As the years have came and went, it has been discovered that Hewitt was not the only monster at that camp. Father Jerry Rapola also worked at the camp when Bobby went missing, and later was accused of essaying a teenage boy and believed this boy could be one of the many victims that he actually had. Another priest, Harold Robert White, who has been described as the most prolific known clergy child abuser in Colorado history, was also a counselor at the camp. It is thought that White abused up to 70 children. During a priest confession, one victim had mentioned how he played with himself to White, and the next day, after hearing the confession, White fondled the boy. When the boy told the principal what had occurred, the principal called him a liar and warned him never to discuss this again, and told the victim that he would tell his parents that he was a master pervert. Another of White's victims told the principal that White was doing queer things to him and made him feel creepy. The principal grabbed the boy, slammed his head against a blackboard, and told him never to talk about the subject again. Another priest, Father Leonard Abercrombie, was accused of essaying a victim for several years at his trailer park at St. Malo's camp. He frequently abused boys on overnight camping trips, often taking them to his camping trailer parked in remote locations, including at that camp. Abercrombie abused around 18 children. And remember the camp director, Richard Heister, who actually started the first search for Bobby's body? He has now been accused of essaying a victim. Heister had also been involved in the 3-day delay of telling the police that Bobby's remains had been found. Not only that, Heister would hold a clue about Bobby's disappearance in his possession until his death. A big clue. In 2021, Bobby's skull appeared inside of a brown paper bag in a doctor's basement. Dr. Joseph McCloskey, a prominent member of the Catholic Church, was given the skull as a doctor's gift from his good friend, priest Richard Heister. When the doctor died in 1980, his son, who was also a doctor, took possession of it. The son was told by his father that it might be the skull of a boy who had disappeared at the camp. And after the son saw a documentary about Bobby's disappearance, he thought it actually might have been Bobby's skull. So he told authorities about the skull that was stored in a paper bag in his basement. It is unknown why Father Heister would not have contacted authorities about finding the skull, or if he had the skull as some sort of trophy. Could several priests have been involved in this cover-up? What happened to Bobby Bizup over 60 years ago? The only one still alive that might have that answer is Father Neil Hewitt, and he is not talking. What's your opinion about this case? Do you think Bobby Bizup's disappearance will ever be solved? Do you think we'll ever find out what happened to this boy? And do you believe that it was just an accident, or Bobby was actually murdered? Or maybe he just went out in the wilderness and was too scared to come back to the camp and perhaps froze to death. I don't know if we'll ever know the answers of what happened to Bobby, but his parents died thinking it was just an accident. The whole thing was accident, and they didn't accuse the church camp of anything. But they, at the time, didn't know about all the predators that, it was just a predator, I guess, paradise. So many there. And I don't know if it was a whole group of predators that were involved in his disappearance or if that we'll ever know. I'm not sure it's ever going to be solved. Anyway, I do love you guys. I know I haven't put out very many videos. It's been so crazy. I'm sorry. But I'm going to try to get back on track. And hopefully I will see y'all soon at the Murder She Shed. And Simon says bye. Say bye. Good boy. You trying to wave? Try to wave. It's hard when he's not on the top. Why don't you get up here and try to wave? Come here. Get up here and we can try to tell him bye. Okay. Wave. Say bye. Say bye. Good boy. Good boy. You're trying, aren't you? All right. We love y'all. We love y'all. See you later. Bye.
Another sister was found in the ditch. I prayed it's not you, hoping I'd never cross that bridge. There are families out there searching of loved ones lost.